Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and we are back with another stock and review, and in particular we're going to be looking at a series of earnings not only this week, but in the coming weeks, just because again there is a lot of big movers that have said, hey, we are announcing earnings this week, but also very important is we've seen a number of stocks that are poised for breakouts like you see here with AMD, what happened today. What we're looking at here is an all-time high. I am hopeful to see this continuation tomorrow. The reason for this is, again, because AMD has released a new series of products, including some awesome chip designs for their graphics cards that are employed in a lot of, in particular, budget gaming devices or laptops, computers, what have you. I love AMD. They, in my opinion, are the discount version of NVIDIA, as well as they just have a lot of room for growth. So looking at them, I did make a video a number of months ago that says stop buying Delta, start buying AMD, and I have felt kind of like run down about it just because for the better part of the past 3 months they've kind of traded sideways, as you can see here, and they finally broke out. I do expect them to continue to run. Unfortunately, as you can see, they have, if we go a little bit farther out, they do have some premiums baked in there. Again, these are not small moves for them to get to $65, $70. And again, that's not a short period of time. I'd like to see where it consolidates. And again, I'd like to add them to my long-term portfolio. However, there is another chip maker that has announced earnings this week, and they did a very good job. A lot of positive growth. Again, kind of since they announced that, as you can see, 2 consecutive days of just excellent growth. Again, this is all-time high range for them. They hit the high earlier this week of nearly $70 at $69.25, and today they are bouncing on that door again. I anticipate that this is going to consolidate in this range. So really like TSM, going to continue looking at them and watching them. So that being said, we do have one other company that announced earnings yesterday, and this is Texas Instruments, and you can see that again they just had a big fall off, despite the fact, if you look here, this is not a small beat. They actually did very well in terms of earnings. Again, they did very well on revenue as well as earnings per share. However, that guidance is not looking that great. However, I do want to remind everyone that when we're looking at these graphs here, they've recovered back to pre-crisis levels, and they're just saying, hey, we don't know if we are going to be able to continue this explosive growth in stock price that we've seen over the quarter, and I anticipate that we'll see more and more of that. So we had 2 chip makers in Texas Instruments as well as TSM announce earnings, and the next one that is going to be on the docket, or one to watch, is going to be Intel. And they are going to be announcing earnings tomorrow after hours. So this is a stock to watch. It's already had a little bit of a run up this week. However, as you can see, they've been trading in this range essentially the entire pandemic. Again, they went nearly as high as $64 or $65, but they still haven't quite hit where they were pre-crisis. So Intel is one that has kind of come under siege against NVIDIA, AMD, and some of these other providers. However, they've got some news in terms of how they're partnering with Ford for driving technology, as well as, again, they are looking for active ways that they can kind of break out of this range. Now, we've seen 2 good beats by the chip makers. Is Intel going to have that? I think this is not necessarily going to come from just the revenue and EPS, but rather that earnings estimate and where are they going to go on a go-forward basis. So my personal opinion, I'm not a diehard fan of Intel. I'm not trying to hold on to them, but I admit they do have an attractive dividend. They're a large company, a relatively safe company, but they're still coming under siege from some of these more growth-minded companies that are just not as highly valued in terms of the overall capital that they're trying to deploy, and that gives them the ability to be a little bit more agile. So that being said, I am going to be watching them just because, again, that earnings is going to be very important. And as you can see, just over the course of the better part of the past week, you can see that the trading volume is very intense, and we can anticipate that they are expecting something to happen. And you can see that in the options pricing just here for the end of the week. Again, Intel is not a big mover, but you can see they're expecting at least a 3% change for some of these options prices. I mean, that is not a insignificant amount for a company their size and of their caliber. So be careful if you're making that move. Again, you're looking at some big moves here that are priced in. And I may be watching this tomorrow before it goes down just because I want to see in terms of where's it going to move, how's it going to move, and is there a potential play there. But as you can see, I just don't have a lot in the buying power right now. So I'd like to watch this one, but mostly because, again, I am playing NVIDIA and I am down on that play. So they went high up at the beginning of the day, and then the news came. I think this was just sympathy with AMD, and they kind of went down trading around here. But as you can see, and I just want to highlight this, for the longest time we saw, and you can't tell as much, trade, and then up, and then trade, we're going up. I'd like to see this kind of pattern here. I think that we're going to get a breakout, and I'd like to see it tomorrow to follow up on AMD's earnings. I think if we break the all-time high, then we're going to be able to get up to 440, 450. I do have a longer term play, and I say longer term, it was when I got it. I need a big move tomorrow, and then probably going to get out of that if we can kind of get some of this profit back. Again, they can move. So if we see a 20-point move tomorrow or a $20 move, I'd like to get back in there. But again, we've got a lot of chip makers. I'd like to see a continuation from AMD, but there's just a lot of money going around. Big cloud usage is big, data centers are big, and the parts to make these are big. So I think chip makers are an excellent investment, but there's going to be some that do better than the others, and that's why I'm going to be watching some of these big movers. So with that being said, let me know in the comments below what you're watching, and I will talk to you all later. Thanks.